Hi, I'm Chef Chris Remington, and I'm here to do a couple dishes for you. We're going to do a Scotch egg. So what I'm going to do first, we just have regular banger sausages. You buy them in the store. We just have to take the casings off. Once they're off, we're going to flatten them. And I've got some 8-minute eggs. So once the water comes to a boil, throw your eggs in, give them 8 minutes, take them out, throw them in some ice water and to cool them down, and then to peel them, just have some running cold water, and as you're peeling them, that'll help take some of any eggshells that are sticking to the outside. So what we've got is the banger meat, so we're going to fold it in our hands, and we're going to make it flat. Now, depending on the size of your eggs, whether you have small, medium, or large, you might need one sausage, you might need 1.5. So what we're going to do, we'll take a half one here. Just mold it in your hand. So we're looking for that there, oblong. Now we're going to take one rolled egg into the center, and we're just going to roll this around. We want the sausage meat to completely encase the egg. Once we have that done, we'll move on to the next one. So the first one's done. Oh, sticky. There we are. And again, we'll just take 1.5, move it around. Now the point of this is to make sure that the egg is completely covered, and we are going to bake these at 350 degrees. It's going to take about half an hour, 35 minutes. You want to make sure the sausage meat is completely cooked. Now I know most people will want to deep fry the Scotch egg, but we're trying to do, I don't know if it's any healthier, but we're going to try to do something a little bit easier than setting up a deep fryer on the stove and that going. So once we have our little balls made, do one more, then we're going to bread them. So when you're breading anything, whether it's a Scotch egg, whether it's chicken, whether it's pork, you want to have 3 things: flour, egg, and some form of breadcrumb. Whether some people crush up cornflakes, some people crush up crackers, some people will do breadcrumbs. So what we want to have is the flour, and what the flour does is it dries the product. And it dries the product so it enables the egg, which is wet, to stick to it. Now you've got a wet product again, you need to dry it, so you put it in the breadcrumbs. I'm using panko breadcrumbs, Japanese breadcrumb, and it just so that it gives it a little bit more of a crunch than a regular breadcrumb. So we have these done here. All we're going to do, roll it in flour. Once it's in the flour, again, just pat that off. I'm going to do that into the egg. Now, very important, once you're rolling it in the egg, this is now your wet hand. You want to keep one wet hand and one dry hand. Otherwise, it can get very gummy. So into there, now we switch hands. And we roll that in the breadcrumbs. Now, onto the baking sheet. And again, dry hand in the flour. And then from there, we go into the egg. Now we switch to the wet hand. Once everything's coated in egg, we go over to the breadcrumbs and we go back to the dry hand. Okay, everything there. And one last one. If you wanted to make these up ahead of time and you were going to freeze them, what I would suggest is you make them, do not bread them. Just take the straight sausage with the egg on the inside, take that tray, put it in the freezer. Once they're frozen, then you can transfer them to a Ziploc bag. They'll hold their shape better, and once you thaw them out, then you can bread them and put them back in the oven. Again, we're going to do it 350, take about 30 minutes, 35 minutes until your sausage is cooked all the way through. You know what, I had the pleasure of living in Edinburgh for a year. I worked at a couple of hotels. I worked at seafood restaurant as well. So, I mean, it's always, everybody seems to have that joke running with Scotland that it's fried Mars bars and everything is fried, and it's not. I mean, you have access to some amazing wild game, mushroom foragers, and you're also a lot closer to a lot of the warmer climates in Europe as well. So a lot of that food comes over, and the seafood is unbelievable, and you get a chance to play around with that. And as myself and many other chefs have spent a lot of time traveling around the world and working with not only different chefs, but different regions and different restaurants and different styles. And you get a chance to pick and choose from each one of those, and then you come up with your own ideas. So things like, take the Scotch egg, for example. I've made it with the pork sausages. I've blended the pork sausages with a little bit of black pudding and mixed that into the mix. I've had it where you can take just pieces of the black pudding, put it inside with the egg. And I mean, there's so many different ideas and so many different ways of doing these dishes. So Scotch eggs, it's been half an hour. So the point is, we want to make sure that the sausage meat is cooked and you have an internal temperature of above 165 degrees. Okay? So again, those 8-minute eggs, the inside isn't going to quite be done, but the point to it is that they will finish cooking here and it keeps it from going. There we have oven-baked Scotch eggs. So you should finish off with your egg cooked, sausage meat moist. That's what we're looking for. You don't want to have that ugly gray ring around the yolk, so that's why water boiling, eggs go in, 8 minutes, take them out, throw them in ice water. So you're left with just this little bit left in the center, but it keeps that yolk nice and bright still. So things like, take the Scotch egg, for example. I've made it with the pork sausages. I've blended the pork sausages with a little bit of black pudding and mixed that into the mix. I've had it where you can take just pieces of the black pudding, put it inside with the egg. And I mean, there's so many different ideas and so many different ways of doing these dishes.